Failed negotiations in Pakistan between the Trump regime and Iran. The Trump regime shows up and wants to change the 10-point negotiating framework that they previously agreed to as an inducement for the ceasefire taking place. Iran refused to change the 10-point negotiating framework. After 21 hours of negotiations, the talks were off. Apparently, there may still be some communications taking place, but Donald Trump is out there talking about obliterating Iran again and destroying their bridges and destroying the people there. Also, Donald Trump announced a full blockade of the Persian Gulf, at least as it relates to oil emanating from Iranian ports, although people who understand maritime law and maritime routes know that's pretty hard to identify. So Trump's plan to open up the Strait of Hormuz is to further close the Strait of Hormuz by adding yet another layer of a blockage there. Meanwhile, we have Donald Trump posting that 34 ships got through the Strait of Hormuz in the past 24 hours. Do you think that that's true? Because everything Donald Trump says is a lie. At most, there have been 4 ships, which were all either aligned with Iran or Iranian flag ships, but no real movement of ships going out of the Strait of Hormuz. You know, we're going to keep monitoring what's happening with this blockade because, you know, what happens now as China sends its ships in order to get Iranian oil? What happens if India sends its ships? What happens if other countries send its ships? Will the U.S. truly enforce its blockade, or will it do what it did with the blockade of Cuba when Russians sent ships into Cuba? The U.S. backed down and allowed the Russian ships to just get into Cuba. You also have announcements that the U.S. is getting ready to have minesweepers enter the Persian Gulf, and particularly the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Navy is apparently moving in multiple minesweeping ships. You know, as Donald Trump has behaved in perhaps the most deranged manner yet, we'll talk about that, you know, in a little bit as well, some of the posts that he's been making. You know, he's acting like Iran's been totally obliterated, is begging for anything to survive. You know, Iran sent its top leaders to go to this negotiation, or what it thought would be a negotiation in Pakistan, PhDs, people who have been diplomats for a very long period of time. And they took it very seriously. You know, they have a lot of their missiles are still intact. A lot of their fast ships are still intact. And so if this is truly going to be the plan that Donald Trump is pursuing, I think it's going to lead to confrontation very soon. And my hope is that's not the case. But if Donald Trump truly intends to enter the Strait of Hormuz area with military ships, Iran's going to go after it. And perhaps that's what Donald Trump wants. Perhaps he wants to use the ships as bait. You know, during those negotiations in Pakistan, the Trump regime tried to send 2 naval destroyers into the Strait of Hormuz, a ship belonging to the Iranian Navy. Yes, Iran still has ships, despite what Trump and some U.S. media tells you, reached the U.S. naval destroyers and said, turn around or we're going to blow you up. And I think thankfully the U.S. naval destroyer turned around, but Iran was ready to attack the naval destroyer. What would have happened if that resulted in the naval destroyer being hit? And you can imagine how quickly a war would escalate if that were to take place. And as I see these minesweepers heading there, as I see this blockade, it seems that Trump is trying to bait Iran to attack U.S. ships using our Navy and our soldiers as the bait, to try to use that as a pretext for the obliteration of Iran that he wants. I think Iran realizes that, but will be, of course, focused on that. But pay very close attention there. Pay very close attention to what's going on in the Red Sea and whether or not Iran will respond by trying to shut down the strait over there. Now, I mentioned Donald Trump's been posting a bunch of deranged things. He posted AI images of himself as Jesus. He posted photos of Trump buildings on the moon. He posted random photos of Bruce Springsteen. I mean, it's been some of the most deranged things after deranged things. Lots of Catholic groups from all different, Catholic sects, from conservative groups to more liberal Catholic groups all said, take this down immediately. It's blasphemous. What the heck are you doing? Donald Trump did delete it, but then in an interview said he never thought that the image of him was being Jesus. He said he was pretending to be a Red Cross doctor healing patients, not Jesus, is what he said. I mean, again, it's such a level of deranged lies. It's hard to even fathom. I mean, he was at a UFC fight while these critical negotiations were taking place in Pakistan, and Trump's Secretary of State was at the UFC fighting with him. I mean, talk about disrespect to the negotiation process, where your Secretary of State is literally with you at a UFC fight. And as Donald Trump was heading in, the UFC crowd was not really cheering for him. Dana White had to hold Donald Trump's hand because it seemed like Trump was going to be falling at certain points in time. And then Donald Trump held this press conference today where he had a DoorDash employee who calls herself a DoorDash grandma. And she said she had to work at DoorDash because her husband had stage 3 cancer and she couldn't afford the medical bills. And so working at DoorDash was the only way to keep her husband alive, which tells you a lot about our healthcare system here in the United States of America. I don't think it was the press conference that Trump thought he was going to get for a lot of reasons. And Trump's poll numbers continue to tank, especially among young people. I mean, it's as bad as you can be. And that's where we are heading into the midterms. We're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about in the show Congress member, or I should say former Congress member Swalwell, now resigning for Congress. He put out a statement saying that he plans to resign. I don't know what that means. It means I think he's resigning. And we'll cover his dropping out of the governor's race, his resignation, and what went down there as well. Horrible, horrible stuff. And our hearts go out to all the victims, all of the survivors out there, and everybody who stepped forward, and anybody who's gone through those heinous acts. Brett and Jordy, good to see you.
Good to see you too, brothers. Nice to see you, Ben. Nice to see you, Jordy. Good to be with you, Midas Mighty. I hope everybody was able to enjoy their weekend at least a little bit. Watching Trump handle this situation, and I use that term lightly, you can't help but just think this is a massive humiliation for the United States. Trump thinks he's projecting power, but all he's shown is complete and utter weakness. And every move that Donald Trump makes just seems more and more desperate. And the thing that really bothers me right now is seeing, just from the point of view of like an American who enjoyed our alliances, the thing that really upsets me is seeing all of these allies move on without the United States. This whole idea with America first has clearly become America alone. And Donald Trump thinks that America alone can conquer and invade all of these other countries, which wasn't even what the whole America first thing was all about. Honestly, like, who the hell even supports this guy at this point? Like, what are you doing? I'm watching him offend every single group out here. And, the discourse around this photo that Donald Trump posted where he positioned himself as Jesus in this photo, I understand the fallout from the photo, and I'm showing it here for the audio listeners. I'm sure you've seen it. I certainly understand the fallout from this photo, but this guy is a walking, talking violation of the 10 Commandments every freaking day. Do we need this photo to realize that the guy is blasphemous? Do we need this photo to realize that this guy is against any sort of moral teachings, no matter what your religion, or if you don't even have a religion? This guy is against everything, single tenet of any semblance of morality imaginable. So I don't understand why it takes the posting of this image to be like, oh, he shouldn't have done that, when he lives like this all the time. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Jordy, I'm going to first toss it over to you. What's the latest?
What's up, brothers? What's up, Midas Mighty? Pumped to get into tonight's show. I'm a little under the weather, brothers, Midas Mighty. You could kind of hear it in my voice, so apologies. Look, there's not a day that goes by where Donald Trump doesn't embarrass us as a country, as a people, as a species. Like, everything this man does is it's a humiliation ritual that he puts us all through. We'll get into all of it. I mean, just to give you an example, I woke up this morning. Like, this is how I wake up now, too. I wake up. My beautiful pregnant wife is laying next to me. She's waking up. She turns over. Go, good morning. She goes, good morning. I go, so Donald Trump attacked the Pope last night and then spent 8 hours just rage tweeting. And she's like, Oh, okay. So it's a Tuesday or it's a Monday. It's every single day. This guy just, it's totally unhinged behavior. And I feel like we've all kind of grown like accustomed to it, as gross as that sounds, but not the collective we here at the network and we, the Meidas Mighty in this pro-democracy community, who are just outraged at all of this. So I'm excited to get into tonight's show. Benji, where do you want to start off?
One of the things I didn't mention in the intro, which we should talk about right away, is the incredible victory of the pro-democracy party, the TISA party in Hungary. Peter Magyar, the new prime minister of Hungary, prevailing, and not just prevailing, but winning big with the supermajorities that were needed and taking over parliament there. He's going to be able to dramatically change Hungary for the better, moving it in a pro-European Union direction, a pro-democracy direction. And from the outset, the new prime minister, Peter Magyar, said that our country wants to live again. It wants to be a European country again, as the crowd was chanting, "Go home, Russia, Russia, go home." He was also saying that we're not going to be having CPAC events anymore, or any of these right-wing, events here. He said he's going to hold everybody from Viktor Orban's government accountable if they've engaged in traitorous and treasonous conduct in helping Putin. And he started off by saying, formerly, press conferences worked in a way that propaganda media asked questions that were written for them by the government. We will now give the floor to those Hungarian outlets who are still independent. I thought, what a great way to start the press conference there. And it was so incredible to see the young people of Hungary really fuel this movement. That's really at the core of this big victory. And here at the MeidasTouch Network, we've spent a lot of attention focused on international affairs, right? In addition to focusing on the Middle East and Asia and South America and Africa and Europe and elsewhere, we've been paying very close attention to elections like this for months and months and months, letting you know this election was coming, who the people were, the difference between the TISA party and the Fidesz party, what Viktor Orban was trying to pull. And I think it's been such great feedback also to hear from the Meidas Mighty in Hungary. Shout out to all of you, and building these bridges here at the network, right? With, I think, Canada really leading the way. And what an incredible speech that you had Prime Minister Carney deliver. But one of the most important things when Donald Trump became, president again, sadly. But one of the important things we dedicated to was this international coverage, because we recognized that Donald Trump was going to try to destroy a stable world order. And we had to be on the front lines covering what a shifting global order looked like. And so what we've been seeing, Brett, as you said, America first has meant America alone. And we've seen all of these international agreements and movements basically making the United States smaller. As Donald Trump has tried to huff and puff his chest, we've seen, all of these links, transatlantic, trans-Pacific, Canada, Australia, bringing everybody, together. So shout out to the great folks in Hungary. And one of the things we've been covering as well, the Pope and the dynamic.
Before we get away from Hungary, I want to talk about Hungary for a second, because I think what people in the United States should take away from Hungary, and shout out to the people of Hungary. I know we have a lot of listeners in Hungary. We got to figure out a cool name for the Meidas Hungarians out there. But shout out for standing up for your democracy. But I think here in the United States, there are lessons to be learned from this. And I just want to say it in this way. In Hungary, Viktor Orban did all the things that Donald Trump is doing in the United States. He cracked down on the free press. He had people in those briefing rooms who were asking questions, who were propaganda press, who would have like pre-screened questions or questions approved by the government that they would ask him. It's the same thing like when they have these Pentagon press briefings and the people they call on are Breitbart, the Daily Caller, random Twitter influencers, and not the actual press. They don't even allow them in the room. Orban did that. Orban also engaged in this heavy sort of gerrymandering similar to in the United States, which made the Fidesz party a lot more powerful. And it made it so that even if people voted in massive numbers, they tried to rig the game so that even if there was a lower percentage of people voting for Orban's party, that they could still win a majority of the seats. So I think those two things right there, I could go down a longer list, but I think those two things right there should ring a bell as to what's happening here in the United States. And the reason I want to bring that up is because despite all of that, the people of Hungary rose up in numbers that were so undeniable, that the numbers were so big, the victory was such a blowout that even Viktor Orban had to do what Donald Trump could not build up the courage to do, and that's concede, admit defeat. And I think that's a lesson that we have to learn here, that people need to show up in numbers to defend democracy. It is an active role that you must play. It's not, I'm going to vote in this one election. It's, I'm going to get to the polls in every election. I'm going to show up for every ballot initiative. Hey, I might run for office. I'm going to support these candidates. I'm going to get this information out. It's an active role that we all play. And I love seeing this blueprint now for pro-democracy build in Hungary, in Canada, and across the world. So shout out to the international Meidas Mighty.
Also, and Brett, I know you said that basically in your answer right there. What a gigantic rebuke of Trumpism, right? This creeping sense of fascism globally. Like, this was a global rebuke of that in real time. And it was just so incredible, you know, to witness, quite frankly.
Vance went there, and the odds of Orban
Vance,
immediately. Yeah,
Vance went there. I mean, but it's sort of what the tendencies that we've seen, especially a lot in these special elections that happen here in the States, when Trump starts to align himself politically with certain candidates. There's a certain stench that gets on that person that they can't wipe off, and so it's been very interesting to see that play out globally as well on an even larger stage.
Hey, look, you had Vance in Hungary backing Orban. You had Rubio in Hungary backing Orban. You had Netanyahu backing Orban. You had Netanyahu's son as one of the headliners at CPAC in Hungary backing Orban. You basically had Hungary under Orban paying for and sponsoring CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Committee, doing kind of international election interference and manipulation events. That's my opinion of it, of what they were doing in Hungary, where all the right-wing influencers showed up and all the same type of CPAC stuff they do here in the United States. They were doing it over there, and the people of Hungary saw what was happening and they rejected it. And I was mentioning as well, we've been covering how Pope Leo XIV has not been a new thing. I mean, he's been standing up to the Trump regime with the cardinals and the bishops as well against Donald Trump's ICE and Border Patrol, Gestapo, kidnapping and killing people off the street, throwing people in concentration camps. Catholic priests in the United States have been on the front lines in immigration court, standing up to ICE. They've been at the ICE detention centers, those concentration camps on the outside, protesting or demanding to be able to access the people who have been kidnapped by the Trump regime so that they could, you know, pray together. And whether you're religious or not religious or no religion at all, you know, here on the MeidasTouch Network, what we always talk about is love and empathy and just being a kind person and a caring person and looking out, you know, for each other. And I think it's a great thing when you have someone in a powerful position like the Pope and other influential community leaders at the bishop level and priest level and cardinal level, of course, standing up to the Trump regime. And Donald Trump hates it. It's why Donald Trump was spending the weekend attacking the Pope. There was a 60-minute special with the Pope's top 3 cardinals in the United States on 60 Minutes. And Trump obviously saw that, and he was very sensitive to being criticized. And so that's why Donald Trump posted a photo of himself as Jesus, because Trump was sending a message that he sees himself as Jesus Christ. I mean, that's, and Trump's posted images of himself, AI.
As he's posted himself as the Pope before. He's made images like this. So, and I know everyone knows it's BS when he goes, "Oh, I thought it was a doctor. I thought it was a Red Cross worker." But like, he has a history of doing things like this. And it seems like the media site, and I think Ben reports on these just about every morning, Donald Trump's deranged posts every single morning. But it seems like selectively, like the media and people in MAGA world decide, oh, I'm going to decide to get angry about this one. I'll make this one a news cycle. I could show you 100 other posts that are equally as insane, as deranged as that one. And like this whole concept that he's going to get the Pope to support his war of aggression against Iran is like the most bizarre framing imaginable. It's like asking like a vegan to judge a hot dog eating contest or something. Like, do you know what the Pope does? The Pope isn't Mr. Warmonger, okay? Like Trump's posting, the Pope is weak on crime. The Pope is weak on this. The Pope isn't your little MAGA puppet that just does what you want. The Pope is the Pope. Like, what are we doing here where we have the President of the United States attacking the Pope? If I were a Christian and I believed in the Antichrist, I would have to be like, this guy's the Antichrist, like by any objective metric, like, and all the signs are there. I don't know how people aren't picking up on this.
Well, by the way, if this AI generated image of Trump being the Pope is the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back here for MAGA to get upset with, I'm okay with that. Like if they want to finally wake up, or at least certain, people in the community want to wake up and be like, hey, that's not right. I agree. We've been saying that. Welcome to the club. This is insane.
Yeah. I mean, there was the story back in January where after the Pope gave a kind of state of the world address, Trump's Defense Department called one of the top officials from the Holy See, from the Vatican for the United States, like basically the equivalent of their ambassador to the United States. And you had this guy, Elbridge Colby, who's like the number 2 at the Defense Department, which unlawfully calls itself the Department of War. According to people in the room, the Defense Department top officials said that, if this Pope doesn't want to become another Avignon papacy, he better align himself with Donald Trump or else. The Avignon papacy, 14th century France, where the Pope was kidnapped and killed by the French, and the papacy, the Holy See, was moved to France and moved away from the Vatican. And so that statement rightfully was interpreted as a threat on the Pope's life within the Vatican. And but the Pope Leo XIV has not been backing down. He's been making a lot more statements out there. I mean, it's wild though when you see the President of the United States making these posts attacking the Pope and going after the Pope and then saying, I don't like the Pope, whatever, he's a bad guy. And then seeing like the Iranian president make a post like this. Your Excellency, Pope Leo XIV, on behalf of the great nation of Iran, I condemn the insult to Your Excellency and declare that the desecration of Jesus, peace be upon him, the prophet of peace and brotherhood, is unacceptable to any free person. I wish glory for you from Allah. Now you may be saying, Ben, you're going to fall for that? That's the Iranian president. Of course, it's propaganda. He doesn't really mean those words. Why are you going to show us that? And I'll just say this. In war and in peace, we would be naive if we didn't recognize that propaganda is tools used by governments. We should be able to deconstruct those here as an independent media company, use our own objective, analytical, legal tools and frameworks to try to describe what's really happening and be fearless in calling that out. But when you're trying to persuade, when you're trying to gain favor and build support, I think it's important to conduct yourself certain ways. And when you have the leader of the United States conducting his behavior in this way, attacking everyone and everything with weird memes and, this abhorrent behavior, then you say, okay, well, what are they doing over there? Because, Trump and Netanyahu and everybody wants to depict these people as savages, as killers, as maniacs who just want nuclear Armageddon, and they're the worst people ever. And I look and I see Donald Trump and Netanyahu talking about annihilation and destruction, and I'll take your bridge down, and I've got you, and I'm going to crumble your civilization, and we loiter over you, and we rain down hell, and we will murder all of you. I mean, that's like literally what Trump and Hegseth and Netanyahu say. Like they say those things, right? And then on the other hand, I'm like, okay, let me see what they're saying over there, and they're out there making comments like, Your Excellency Pope Leo XIV, we stand in solidarity to you. And I understand that, like, I'm not naive to the way, propaganda works. I'm not naive to it, but I also think it's very curious that the Trump regime is behaving precisely the way they've stereotyped the way Iran is behaving. And I'm just making that observation throughout this whole process that Donald Trump is the one who appears to be like an unhinged lunatic in absolutely everything. I mean, look at what he calls in over the weekend after the failed negotiations because he wanted to change the negotiating framework with Iran. He induced them into a negotiation. Trump posted, I agree to their 10-point framework. I think that is a suitable place to begin negotiations. Trump posted that. And then Trump reposted the Iranian foreign minister Araghchi's post to induce this negotiation, to ceasefire conversation. And then Trump wanted to change it because Trump realized, I get it, these 10 points, like Iran keeps the Strait of Hormuz, enriches uranium, it keeps all of its missiles, long-term security guarantees for Iran, Hezbollah, and all its other proxies, full reparation, U.S. leaves its bases. I get it. Trump's like, we can't really do those things, but you agreed to them. You agreed to those things. So Iran showed up thinking that those were going to be the framework. I don't think they were naive that you were going to change the framework, but they didn't deviate outside of it. And then Donald Trump and afterwards, J.D. Vance were like, they wouldn't accept the conditions we imposed on them. That right there is one of the fatal flaws of the negotiations, that you wanted to impose said conditions on them versus treat this as a mediation. And also, when Donald Trump makes these posts like, we've sunk their ships and we're going to blockade you and their leaders are dead and we're going to kill all of you and whatever. Look, if your objective is war and you want to speak like a war criminal or a warmonger and you believe the solution is war and that's how you're going to talk, then I reject that as the way that human beings should talk. I will protest it and I will call it out as a human being in terms of a conduct of behavior, but at least your words are logically aligned with your actions of war, right? We all understand that. But when you posture to a negotiating framework and you say, we're going to destroy the hell out of you in a mediation, we're going to pound you to the ground in a negotiated setting. Well, sorry, that's not a negotiation then. So if you want to make your words congruent with the negotiation, then you have to treat the other side respectfully. You have to recognize the other side's right to exist. You can't say the only reason we're keeping the negotiators on the other side alive is to cut the deal that we want, because then you won't be able to ever make a deal that way with the other side that's showing up because they want to be treated like equals. And if you're like, well, why would we treat them that way? You're showing up to a negotiation. If you don't want to treat them that way, don't show up to the negotiation. But it's kind of like the most basic aspect of everything, right? So while, and I've seen all of these things, right, that it's like the negotiations are still ongoing, which I just think is a market manipulation play. It's still ongoing. It's still ongoing. I mean, I watched Donald Trump go on Maria Bartiromo, and trust me, so did the Iranians. Like, they're studying all of these words. They're studying what he's saying. And so Trump goes on Maria Bartiromo, and he's being asked questions about, what's going to happen with the tankers headed to the Gulf of Mexico that Donald Trump calls the Gulf of America. So what's happening here? And just watch what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
President, because you referred to a post that hundreds of super tankers are headed to the Gulf of America to buy oil and gas from the U.S. What can you tell us about that, sir?
Well, I can tell you that it used to be called the Gulf of Mexico. That's what I can tell you. Now it's called the Gulf of America because of me. One of my little things that I did, one of my little sidelines. And it's a great honor. People are so happy. You go to Louisiana, you go to Florida, you go to these states, Texas. They're so honored by it. I used to say, why is that the Gulf of Mexico when we have 93% of the frontage? And, it fronts 93% on the United States. I said, I think I'm going to change it to the Gulf of America. What a beautiful name. And I did. And I give a lot of credit to Google because once I filed the papers, I did it. And once Google Map changed, did it, it was a done deal. But we had lawsuits, we won everything. And It's now the Gulf of America, which I'm very honored by.
But do you expect super
I must tell you, I was thinking about calling it the Gulf of Trump, and I decided not to do it. I think maybe it was a wise. I think that one maybe wouldn't have worked out. I'm not so sure. You'll have to tell me. But I was thinking about it's going to be called the Gulf of Trump. And then I said, that's not going to play too well.
For those listening on audio, Maria Bartiromo is looking at him like he is a very sick patient, like in hospice care, or like she's the nurse and the person saying things that are, kind of very frightening to the nurse, and the nurse looking like, oh, no, okay, Donald. Like, how do you, I mean this objectively, how are you supposed to negotiate or do anything with that human being, right? Like, how do you have any rational conversation with that? The short answer is you can't, and we can't and shouldn't as a country normalize that. It's not just the post of him saying he's Jesus, or the hospitals on the moon, or asking about Bruce Springsteen plastic surgeries, or whatever deranged things he's post. It is this individual fit to be a leader? No, yet alone the leader of these United States of America. No, that's not a political position that I hold. It's just an observation of whatever the hell that is. We're going to take our first break of the show. Of course, we got a lot to discuss when we come back. In addition, we should talk about Donald Trump losing his lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for that Epstein 50th birthday card that the Wall Street Journal wrote about, which Trump still denies was his card. Like, there was a time traveler, I guess, who went back and planted it in the Epstein estate. Well, Trump lost that, but he vows to refile. We'll talk about that and so much more. We'll take our first quick break of the show. A reminder, are you a member of the MeidasTouch YouTube channel? If not, would you consider becoming a member right now? When you become a member, you get access to member features like the emojis, like some of the specials that I do with Ron Filipkowski. We make podcasts just for our members. And of course, it helps this network as well. But unlock those membership features. We'll be right back after our first quick break of the show.
Warmer weather, spring travel. Oh, am I excited to tell you about Fair Harbor. This podcast is brought to you by Fair Harbor, makers of the world's most comfortable swimwear. The same comfort that's earned thousands of 5-star reviews is built into their super soft clothes, made to be worn hard and broken in by the life that you live. Fair Harbor trunks are perfect for swimming, lounging, or soaking up some sun. A variety of designs and styles make finding your favorite pair easy. And Fair Harbor's super soft built-in liner keeps you comfortable all day. You'll never have to go back to that mesh-lined trunks again. Trust me. Beyond swim trunks, Fair Harbor carries a full line of casual clothing that's ideal for travel. Their shorts, shirts, and hoodies are lightweight, comfortable, and easy to pack. Perfect for flights, road trips, and relaxing once you arrive. And if the rest of the family starts eyeing your gear, they've got kids' styles too. Fair Harbor started with one goal, protecting the places we all love to explore. They turn recycled plastic bottles into better, more comfortable fabrics and the kind of pieces you'll reach for over and over, season after season. I love how Fair Harbor focuses on both style and sustainability. Nothing like looking good and doing good all at the same time. My favorite Fair Harbor product is their swim trunks. They are just so comfortable. I can wear them anywhere. Head to fairharborclothing.com and use the code MeidasTouch for 20% off your full price order now through March 31. Once again, that's Fair Harbor, HARBOR clothing.com for 20% off, and make sure you use our promo code MeidasTouch so they know that we sent you. Let's talk about what's really happening right now. New data shows financial stress is at an all-time high. Millions of Americans are at a breaking point. Debt maxed out, no extra money, no room to breathe. And this isn't just lower income households anymore. Middle class families are hitting their limit too. This isn't reckless spending, everyday people running out of options. So if debt has been weighing on you, you're not alone. And when it comes to debt, waiting usually just makes it worse. Interest piles up, minimum payments keep you stuck. You don't need another loan or bankruptcy. You need a strategy. That's why I like Done With Debt. They build a smart, personalized plan around you. They're experienced at knowing what it takes to get you the biggest reductions possible. Whether you owe $10,000 or much more, Done With Debt has one clear goal: lower what you owe so you keep more of your paycheck every month. Start with a free consultation. It takes minutes. Share your situation and find out what's possible. You don't have to stay stuck. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know that we sent you. Benji, where to next, big bro?
Brett, let me pass it to you, big Brett. What do you make of that clip right there? I know I went to commercial, and I just think it's probably worth reflecting on, I know lots of attention today is on Donald Trump doing the Jesus post and Donald Trump making all these other deranged posts. But, she asked him a very basic question that's on the minds of a lot of Americans. What's going to happen with the price of gas? What's going to happen with the price per barrel of oil? And, we've always been talking about the eerie similarities of this and COVID. Remember, right before Easter, Donald Trump was like, "We're going to bend the curve like a miracle. It's going to go away. Easter's the date. It's done." And then Easter passed. And then afterwards, if you recall, he kind of just pretended it wasn't happening, right? He went through all of this. Then he just kind of like, yeah, we're just not going to deal with it right now. One of the things I think about is Donald Trump's first term and how he dealt with Kim Jong-un, who now has nuclear weapons in North Korea, right? And we don't really even talk about it anymore. But it went from when Obama was in office, if Kim Jong-un did any missile tests at all, it was a front page story in every newspaper, the lead story on Fox, state regime media, and basically all outlets. Oh my God, he's going to get a nuclear weapon. He's going to get a nuclear weapon, right? During Donald Trump's first administration, Trump let the guy get nuclear weapons. He got the nuclear weapons. He was able to build them under Donald Trump. Trump became like good friends with him. He's got the nuclear weapons. And now it's not even talked about anymore. And I think for Donald Trump, if you follow his life where he bankrupts things and bankrupts other things and then moves on to the next thing, I actually think an ideal resolution for Donald Trump is as follows. You have this purported blockade that's basically there, and you don't really enforce it all that much. And people just stop thinking about it. And it's like, just Trump being Trump. But meanwhile, ships aren't leaving the Strait of Hormuz. I think that eventually people start developing other routes, whether it's more ships going into the Red Sea, gas prices go up. Then it's just basically accepted that this is like the new norm, that we all just accept. That lots of travel doesn't happen anymore through that strait in terms of, oil and maritime. It gets shifted elsewhere. Prices generally go up. And then Donald Trump blames it on Democrats or whoever he blames on in a given moment, right? That's, to me, his behavior. Brett, let me toss it over to you.
Yeah, the thing is, everything that Donald Trump does is a fraud. And there was a reason why throughout the campaign, we'd make an effort and scream from the mountaintops that all the events that Donald Trump was doing were fake, that he did a event with union auto workers and there weren't union auto workers in the event, that he would go to these bodegas and that it would all be a setup, that the whole McDonald's stunt that he did was fake. And we called that out because you have to understand Donald Trump's pathology. And it plays now, unfortunately, into global affairs and into things that have actually nuclear stakes at the moment, which is not a position you want to be in. So when Donald Trump goes into these negotiations, when he's is speaking about what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, when he's talking about any of this stuff, you have to understand how are you supposed to negotiate with someone who's just a fraud? How are you supposed to negotiate with somebody who just makes everything up? And I think that's the issue that right now the world is encountering with Donald Trump. It's the issue that Trump had, quite frankly, with Canada. It's the issues that he was having with Iran. It's the issues that he's having with Greenland. You name the country, you name whatever the situation is, they're all caused by Trump. And they all stem from just being not able to trust the guy at all because he's delusional, he's deranged, he makes things up, he lies. He lies. Even today's stunt that they did at the White House was a lie. It was another fraud perpetrated on the American people. Donald Trump at the White House today, he did this whole stunt where, oh, look, this DoorDash driver came to the White House coincidentally, and she wanted to praise me for tax on tips. It was this grandma, sweet lady, and she wanted to praise me for tax on tips, and how convenient that it's almost tax day, and this DoorDash lady wants to praise me for tax on tips. I'm so glad it helped your family. Well, when you do just a cursory check on what was going on here, first you see that DoorDash themselves was promoting this. So it was clearly set up between DoorDash and the administration. And then you look further and you realize that the whole thing was set up to begin with. You see, the woman, and I'm, not going to say anything about her. I'm just talking about Trump here. But you see this woman right here who is delivering the food to Donald Trump, this McDonald's. Well, she came from Arkansas. She wasn't in D.C. DoorDash drivers from Arkansas don't drive from Arkansas to Washington, D.C. So in order to find somebody who supported a Trump policy, they had to find someone in Arkansas and bring them over. And then it turns out when you dig a little deeper on this issue, this woman has also been in hearings for the GOP where she has pushed GOP policies like this post in July 2025, where a Representative David Kustoff wrote, during the Ways and Means GOP field hearing in Nevada, I had the privilege of speaking from Sharon about how the one big, beautiful bill will make a real difference in her life. And so we see how they're using the same cast of characters and they're bringing them from state to state to promote Republican policies. This is all a setup. It's all a scam. And it's all also pushed by this propaganda media that tries to act like it's normal. And I was actually watching Fox as they presented it. And I was like, wow, this is how Fox really operates. You see how they go from this McDonald's delivery, and then you go, wow, it's just it's so great to see these policies just helping the everyday American. Like, there's no tax on tips thing. I know a lot of people are probably feeling pretty good about this Trump economy. Yeah, sure, there are a little bit of bumps. There are a few bumps out there because of this whole war thing, but there's more money out there and you're about to get rich. This is the scam that they're all pulling on the American people. And if you're not in tune with it, I could see how you could fall under the spell. But that's why it's important to continue to expose the fraud when we see the fraud. And I'm happy that more people are now paying attention to it. But this is the issue now with all these negotiations. We used to at least be able to trust when the United States government said something happened in negotiation. We could kind of trust that it was at least in the realm of reality, that we were living in the same universe. Now, unfortunately, when they say something, when the United States government says something, I got to go wait a sec. We got to wait till see what Iran says. And then I need to wait to see what an independent mediator says, because I don't believe this. And like clockwork, you could also say, Trump made a threat. This is likely to tank the markets. So I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say that, I don't know, about an hour or two before the markets open tomorrow, that we're going to see a news story that says something like, it's probably going to come from Barack Ravid of Axios, and it's going to say something like, a U.S. official told me that we're actually close in talks now, and there might be some more talks coming up, so don't you worry, it's right around the corner. And I just need to facepalm and go, why are people falling for this crap? This is the biggest fraud perpetrated on the American people, on the entire world, and it continues to be pushed out like it's normal. Like all of this is normal, and none of this is normal. And I also want to reflect on a quick story too that just isn't getting enough attention, and that's while Trump is going out there and attacking all of our allies, just wrecking all of our alliances, there's a big story that's not getting, I haven't seen it covered once. I saw it covered in The Guardian, but I haven't seen it on TV once. I've not heard anybody speak about it. And that's this week, starting today, 189 countries are in Washington, D.C. for the IMF and World Bank spring meetings. And the delegates at these meetings have been told quietly not to even bring up climate change because they don't want to trigger Donald Trump or the United States. So they're at this major global finance summit in Washington, D.C., super important. And the White House is essentially forcing them to either pick a fight with the United States or shut up about climate change. And they are being forced right now to sneak any sort of clean energy priorities through the back door. And so what do I even mean by sneak climate priorities through the back door? Well, Lord Stern, a former World Bank chief economist, laid it out. You fund the metro systems in overcrowded cities. You invest in agriculture, forests, water infrastructure, public transport. You do all of these things, but you make sure that you don't use the word climate, or you don't use the word green energy or clean energy or anything like that. Because all these things help the climate, but they don't want to upset little fragile Donald in the Oval Office and have any money go away from all of this. So their strategy is like, okay, we're going to try to do the right thing, but let's not say the quiet part out loud. We don't want to trigger the White House. Just keep your head down. Hope the money keeps flowing. And this is just another part of the insanity. We're talking about the World Bank, the single biggest source of climate funding on the planet. The institution 189 countries are counting on to help it. $1.3 trillion a year target was agreed to in the last UN climate summit. And now even its own staff are doing these ridiculous linguistic gymnastics just to avoid upsetting one guy in the Oval Office. And obviously this is happening in the midst of this oil crisis where we don't know what's going to happen. We already know oil prices are through the roof. There are going to be massive shortages. And they're telling right now the World Bank, where the U.S. controls 17% of the capital, to get back into financing gas, oil, and coal, because now Scott Bessent is demanding it on behalf of Donald Trump. And so now these senior officials are self-censoring themselves. I mean, the whole thing is just completely absurd. And it's going to really, honestly, it's going to affect a lot of countries who rely on this funding to help them prevent climate disasters. And once again, it's all because Donald Trump lives in these delusions. He lives in this invented reality, and he expects the whole world to go along. And unfortunately, far too long, people go along with his BS because they're afraid of the backlash, like a mob boss.
Well said, B. Look, if Trump spent more time just focusing on real substantive solutions to things instead of trying to dupe the American people or to dupe the world stage, just trying to trick them into thinking what he's doing is good, we could be in a good spot. Like if he just focused and everyone focused around him and everyone just wanted to put their best foot forward. But no, the guy has to be a total friggin' lunatic, man. Like the Trump regime and Trump, they remind me of the kid in class that would spend more time scheming about how to cheat on the test versus just putting that same time and effort into actually just studying for the test. And well, the difference here is when we fail the test, we're now failing the American people. We're failing our troops. We're failing our citizens. We're failing the world. And we lose all of our credibility. It has been a global embarrassment what Trump has done, and it continues to do every single day, Ben.
Well, think about also some of the big lies thus far, and there's so many of them. But obviously, when Trump said there would be Doge dividend checks and all Americans would get $5,000, or there would be these tariff rebate checks or tariff dividend checks, that so much money would come in that everybody would get all of this money directly handed to them. Think about Donald Trump saying 90 deals in 90 days, we promise you. There's basically been no deals in 90 days in terms of written trade deals that actually take the form of what we would consider to be a traditional trade agreement. They made a bunch of press releases, like 7 press releases that were non-binding and are not being enforced. And then Donald Trump basically made up a bunch of numbers, and he would say, we brought in $17 trillion or $21 trillion. And he would say, Saudi Arabia offered us $5 trillion, or Qatar offered us $2 trillion. More money by multiples of what the actual underlying GDP is of these nations. And so there was always that taking place last year. And we were always on the front line saying fake deal, fake deal, fake deal. We're not bringing in trillions of dollars. This is all part of the Ponzi scheme that he is doing. There's one other post that Donald Trump made. There's been many, actually, but the one that's not getting a lot of attention, though, that to me probably deserves to, because it goes to his psyche as well. He made this weird post about Ed McMahon and how Donald Trump in 2008 found Ed McMahon, Johnny Carson's sidekick, who was destitute in his final years of life, and his home was being foreclosed on in Beverly Hills in 2008. And Donald Trump says that he bought Ed McMahon's home in 2008 because he loved Ed McMahon. And as a student in Wharton Business School, Donald Trump said Ed McMahon was someone I'd watch while I was studying for my exams. So I bought Ed McMahon's home so he wouldn't get foreclosed on, and allowed him to live out the rest of his life in this home just out of the goodwill. And Donald Trump reposts something that says, this is a side of Donald Trump you never saw before. He never went to the media about this. He did it quietly. He gave Ed McMahon the best final years of his life by buying a home for Ed McMahon and letting him live there. Trump didn't go to the media, understated, selfless, incredible human being. Trump reposted that. The entire story is fake, is all not accurate. The real story is in 2008, Donald Trump ran to the LA Times to seek publicity for himself, as that was a particular period of time when Donald Trump was being viewed as like a total loser, and he was trying to like reinvent himself and saying, look how great I am, this, that, and the other. I need better press. So Donald Trump runs to the LA Times, leaks this story that he's going to buy, the home and that he's about to buy it. The true story is Donald Trump doesn't buy it. He leaves Ed McMahon destitute, hanging. Ed McMahon's real estate agents are like, didn't you promise to buy this house? Trump just wanted the story in the LA Times. Somebody else ended up buying the house from Ed McMahon. And there was a headline in CBS from 2008 that was like, Donald Trump does not buy Ed McMahon's home, after Trump leaked it to the LA Times. And then Ed McMahon's daughter is quoted as saying, when Dad was going to lose his house in Beverly Hills, Donald Trump said he was going to buy it because he was such a big fan of Dad's and he didn't want Dad to lose the house. And of course, that was a lie, is what Claudia McMahon said. So here we are, 2026. Donald Trump is at a UFC fight during a failed negotiation with Iran over an unlawful war that Donald Trump started, as Donald Trump is attacking the Pope, and he's posting on social media a fake story from 2008 about helping Ed McMahon save his home from foreclosure, which is entirely false. I just want you to think about how deranged that is. Okay, and if Obama, if Biden, if George W. Bush, if Clinton, if anybody posted like that, it would be game, set, match, impeach, 25th Amendment, see you absolutely late. Could you imagine if Biden just posted the Ed McMahon story? Just that alone? That would see you later. It would be the 25th Amendment would be invoked yesterday. What are we talking about here? And, one of the things, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we come back from break, though, that I think Iran is doing during this war, which is a fascinating kind of asymmetrical digital strategy, though, is the constant mockery of the Trump regime, showing what Donald Trump is as a clown, because that's the only way you can deal with such a cloud and not embrace it. I mean, I saw one of their embassies posting Trump $20.28 per gallon. Trump 2028, $20.28 per gallon. I saw one of their embassies post this video because Donald Trump's been ranting all day about blockade, we're doing a blockade. And one of the Iranian embassies was saying, you do realize for you to have a blockade, you have to move your ships a little bit closer. You can't just make a social media post on X. Do we have the video here of just the blockade, Brett, or do we just have the photo? Because if we have a little bit of the video, let's just play a short.
You're talking about this one, right?
Exactly. If we've got it.
Yeah. Okay. It's your lucky day because I unfortunately have it.
Thank you. All right. My lucky day. We don't need the whole thing, but we'll get the point here. Play it. Okay, we get the point here. But
I'm on the world
what
worst
a time
acid
to
trip.
what a time to be alive.
I mean, but take a look at this. I mean, this was his appearance on Maria Bartiromo, though, where he's out there saying, where's the clip with Maria Bartiromo, where he's out there saying, she goes, the blockade in the Strait, the opening up capacity, is this going to be enough to lower the price of oil and gas? Like look at what his actual response is when asked a question about this. Here, play this clip.
Going to be enough, the blockade in the Strait, the opening up capacity in the United States is this going to be enough to lower the price of oil and gas, sir?
Well, eventually it's going to be lowered. No, it might not happen initially, but it's going to go down. When this is all over, look, the stock market, the Dow hit 50,000. It was supposed to be in 4 or 5 years. They said it won't happen during his.
Okay, still going with the Dow.
He's still going with He's still going.
I hit a home run when I was in Little League when I was 10 years old. Imagine if I just kept talking about it. I guess I just.
Well, Justin Wolfers will tell you. I mean, it's also one of these Trump lies. Justin Wolfers, economist who comes on the MeidasTouch Network a lot, he was like, if Donald Trump didn't screw everything up the first year, the Dow actually should have been up about 16 to 20% more if you looked at the trajectory of international markets during the exact same time period. America's markets were actually one of the slowest growing, with a broader international movement of economic growth in other markets. So one of the points that Wolfer said is, okay, that was a good metric, but where's the other 16% is what Americans should be asking, because America was not number one. It was actually towards the end. All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. We will be right back. We're going to be talking about more of all of this when we get back. Reminder, become a member of our YouTube channel. It certainly helps, and it helps you gain access to all of our membership features. We do a special members-only podcast, and of course, unlock the emojis. So become a member right now. You can gift memberships as well. And who doesn't want a taco emoji right now? The new taco emoji is great. Anyway, we'll take our last quick break.
And it's not just any taco emoji; it's a taco Trump emoji. So don't get, because there is a taco emoji. Gotta go.
Okay, not just the taco Trump emoji. All right, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
My cat hears the news with me every morning, and honestly, she handles it way better than I do. Probably because she starts her day with Smalls. This podcast is sponsored by Smalls. Is the news making you want to cuddle up with your cat? Smalls fresh cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free, 100% human-grade ingredients you'd find in your fridge. And it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. For a limited time, get 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. Starting with Smalls is easy. Just share info about your cat's diet, health, and food preferences. Then Smalls puts together a personalized meal plan for your cat. No more picking between random brands at the store. Smalls has the right food to satisfy any cat's cravings. Last time I fed my cat Smalls, she loved it. Legitimately, we did a taste test, put 2 food bowls side by side, and she immediately went to Smalls. My cat actually follows me around every morning until I give her Smalls. Still not a believer in Smalls? Forbes ranked Smalls the best overall cat food, while BuzzFeed said my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff. Smalls is possibly my favorite sponsor ever because my cat's breath is so much better and her fur is so much softer ever since I switched to Smalls. This year's winter coat has been so soft and healthy. After switching to Smalls, 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. That's a big deal. And the team at Smalls is so confident that your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat their food. So stop guessing which meals will upset their stomach. For a limited time, because you are a MeidasTouch Podcast listener, get 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. One last time, that's 60% off your first order plus free shipping when you head to smalls.com/Meidas. Ever wake up sweaty, freezing, or just uncomfortable? The temperature in your bedroom can make or break your sleep. That's why I switched to Miracle Made sheets. They're inspired by NASA technology and use silver-infused temperature-regulating fabric to help you sleep perfectly all night long. Miracle Made sheets feel just as good, if not better, than sheets you'd find at a 5-star hotel, but without the steep price tag. Smooth, breathable, and ridiculously comfortable. Thanks to their antibacterial silver technology, Miracle Made sheets stay cleaner and fresher up to 3 times longer than regular sheets. That means fewer odors, fewer wash cycles, and way less laundry.
All that hidden bacteria in regular sheets, it can clog your pores and cause breakouts. Miracle Made's antibacterial design helps you sleep cleaner and clearer night after night. Miracle Made sheets are crafted with NASA-inspired silver-infused fabric that helps regulate your body temperature. Hot sleeper, cold sleeper, it doesn't matter. These sheets help keep you in the comfort zone all night long. Upgrade your sleep or give the gift of better rest. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use the promo code Meidas, you'll get an extra 20% off plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make for an amazing gift, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Meidas, code Meidas at checkout. Thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars and IQ hydration mixes and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are the delicious low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. IQ Bar's plant protein bars are the smarter snack choice with plenty of plant protein, tons of fiber, and no added sugar. IQ Mix is a zero-sugar drink mix that hydrates with electrolytes, improves mood, and boosts clarity. IQ Joe is a mushroom coffee designed for mental clarity and packed with 200 milligrams of natural caffeine. Plus, it comes in 4 different flavors that will totally transform your morning routines. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. I love IQ Bar and all of their products. It's really become part of my daily routine. You have got to give it a shot. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text TRUTH to 64,000. Text TRUTH to 64,000. That's TRUTH to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Shout out to our sponsors. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. If there's an exit survey, let them know that we sent you. Benji, where to next?
Yeah, so just briefly, that press conference that Donald Trump had outside the White House today where he was asked by the press, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ? Did you do that? Take a listen to Donald Trump's response. Let's play it.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make.
Of course. I mean, how stupid. I mean, how stupid that that's the leader of the United States. I mean, how humiliating. I just don't objectively, how freaking humiliating that of all of the people in this country who could possibly be in the most important position, it's that vile piece of trash right there. And let's use moral clarity when we discuss it. That's exactly what he is. He is a war criminal. Separately, he is an adjudicated felon. Separately, he has been found civilly liable for sexual assault. He's covering up for the Epstein class. He was Epstein's close friend. That's his behavior. I mean, what he's bankrupted company after company. So what about J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism? What does he think about all of this? He was just asked before we went live. Here's what J.D. Vance had to say. Let's play it.
When it comes to the disagreements with the Vatican, look, we're going to have disagreements, Brett, from time to time. I think it's a good thing, actually, that the Pope is advocating for the things that he cares about. But we're always going to have disagreements on matters of public policy, or I should say, sometimes we're going to have disagreements on matters of public policy. The Pope has been critical of our immigration policy, but ultimately the immigration policy of the United States is set by Donald Trump. The Pope is going to have disagreements on other issues. We can respect the Pope. We certainly have a good relationship with the Vatican, but we're also going to disagree on substantive questions from time to time. I think that's a totally reasonable thing. It isn't particularly newsworthy.
So he pivots away, and then separately in a clip, he says that Donald Trump was joking. That was all one big funny joke, and we should all take what Donald Trump says as like Trump is doing stand-up right now. So LOL to Donald Trump stand-up. You had Riley Gaines, who's been one of Donald Trump's closest allies that Donald Trump uses a lot to bully the transgender community, and he frames it as an issue of protecting women's sports. But if you actually look at Trump's policies regarding women's sports, he doesn't believe that women should receive equal pay in college as male athletes. You can take a look at his name, image, and likeness executive order from last year, February 2025, where he said, yeah, you know, Title IX doesn't actually help women get the same amount of money when it comes to all of these huge payments college athletes get with name, image, and likeness. So I always want to point that out. But then separately, you know, my view of the way Donald Trump views the issue over transgender athletes playing sports. It's a way to bully and harm and disrespect marginalized communities. Nothing to actually do with sports competitiveness at all. But in any event, Riley Gaines is Donald Trump's proxy for that bullying. She responded to Donald Trump's post where Trump made himself AI Jesus. And she goes, why? Seriously, I cannot understand why he'd post this. Is he looking for a response? Does he actually think this? Either way, two things are true. A little humility would serve him well. God shall not be mocked. And then Donald Trump was asked by reporters before we went live if he took the post down because of criticism by Riley Gaines and others. And Donald Trump said, no, I don't listen to Riley Gaines. I'm not a big fan of Riley, actually. And it just goes to show you, I mean, everybody in this cult is expendable to him. That's what this is what he does and who he is, you know, his entire life. And this is how he behaves. But I don't need to belabor that point. You all understand that. But can I show you what a real leader looks and sounds like? Can I show you Prime Minister Carney in his powerful speech that he gave in front of the Liberal convention in Montreal this past weekend? Here, Prime Minister Carney talks about how the days of Canada spending 70% of every dollar to the United States on military, bye-bye. Here's what Carney said. Let's play it.
The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollars to the United States are over.
He talks about Canada moving away from American products and buying Canadian products first, how it started quietly, but then began to grow into the elbows up movement. By the way, Meidas Canada has been on the front lines of that. Shout out Charlie Angus. Play this clip.
You know, it started quietly. People choosing a wine from the Okanagan over one from California. Anyone had any bourbon recently? No, I don't think so, no. Sorry. A family planning a vacation to Prince Edward Island instead of booking flights to Florida. Canadians are rediscovering our country.
And Prime Minister Carney said the international order is crumbling and that ties to the U.S. are no longer reliable. Let's play it.
The world's changing. Not gradually, but suddenly. Yes, some are still in denial. Rather than starting on this journey, they're waiting for the past to return. Nope. But hope is not a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy. And if we stand still during this rupture, we will surrender our future to others. My friends, technological change is accelerating. We can either shape our future with AI or let it control our destiny. The foundations of the international order, the order which Canada helped build and from which we have benefited for so long, that order is crumbling.
And you hear that in Canada, you hear that in Europe, you hear that in Asia, you hear that in South America and in Africa, you hear that in Australia, you hear that across the world right now. Trump's America First is America alone. That's where we're at right now. Brett and Jordy, I wanted to show that Prime Minister Carney clip, though, again, because the level of leadership we've seen Carney provide internationally, it's Canada picking the right guy or the right person for the right moment, in contrast to the US doing the exact opposite, meeting the moment versus taking massive steps backwards in the wrong direction.
Brett, before you go, B, I just want to say I'm never more jealous, envious, you name it, than when I watch Carney speak. I mean, it is like just so missed here in this country to have such a dignified, well-spoken leader. And it's just like, oh yeah, but talk about someone like an adult with a hand on the wheel. You could kind of tell, hey, Carney's that guy. And it's just like, it's night and day. Sorry, Brett, go ahead.
And honestly, I think everybody, and I think Canada really led the way here for all countries throughout the entire world. They're showing how you stand up to Donald Trump, because they've taken the punches, right? They've taken the bullying, the name calling, the governor this, the 51st state that. They've taken these hits repeatedly. But I think you have to watch the way that they conduct themselves. I mean, Carney right there, that was a total smackdown of Donald Trump. That was a total smackdown of the current United States policies. But he did so in such a dignified way. And he did so in such like such a Canadian way, I'll just say. And I think, the tactfulness that Carney uses, I think should be emulated throughout the world. And the way that Carney does not buckle to Donald Trump and bend over for Donald Trump should be looked at by the entire world. People like Mark Ruddy, however you say the NATO guy's name, he should be looking at Mark Carney for how to handle Donald Trump instead of trying to constantly praise Trump and try to play to his ego. That's not how you get things done in this world when Donald Trump is president of the United States. You need to show some strength. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to stand up for your values. And that's how you win the support of your people, but that's actually how you move the ball forward for democracy. So shout out to Canada. Shout out to Hungary. That's what their new leader just did as well. He built these coalitions. He bulldozed past the gerrymandering and the propaganda press. He bullied past all of the just like Trump, all the very shady tactics that Viktor Orban was trying to deploy and employ, these false flag operations, just all the nonsense that he put up with. But he also did so in a dignified way. He built these coalitions. He brought everyone together, and the people rose up, and they showed that no matter how many roadblocks that these autocrats want to put in the way of the people, that the people can overcome them if they have enough energy, if they have enough enthusiasm, if they are pointed in the right direction. That's why I view this Meidas Mighty as a pro-democracy movement across the world, not just in the United States. And I love all of our international friends and partners. And I think it's important that we have a value-based network here that doesn't cheerlead individual politicians, but that presents a list of values that we all want to follow, that we all want to see in this country. And I think if you have that, then you could report on things honestly. You could report on things in a straightforward way. And unfortunately, as we've seen over these past few days, as we've seen, since the beginning of time, politicians will let you down. We saw this with Eric Swalwell, the multiple accusations now that have come out against him, which are horrifying, ranging from the sending of inappropriate photos to allegations of rape. Awful stuff. And shout out to all the victims who are coming forward. And I hear more are coming forward as well in the coming days. And I think it's important for us to stand with those women and understand that this isn't about any one politician, right? This isn't about that. This is about it's not about a political party. This is about values that we want to see, that we want to uphold. So today, to go back to the beginning of the episode, we learned that Representative Eric Swalwell has announced that he is resigning from Congress. And we've also learned that Representative Tony Gonzalez, Republican, is also resigning from Congress. Gonzalez is going to be resigning from Congress tomorrow, he says. Gonzalez had admitted to having an extramarital affair with a former staffer. She later died by suicide under mysterious circumstances. And this led to a House investigation into sexual misconduct and abuse of power. And there was a lot of other horrific behavior as well with Gonzalez. So now he is leaving Congress. And I think it's good. Clear all of these people out. We do not want people who do not share the values of a polite society, of a democratic society, of a society that upholds morals, because we're learning what it leads to when you have a degradation of those values, when you have someone like a Donald Trump in charge who embodies all of this, right? You see the destruction it has on an entire country. You see the destruction it has with partners, with alliances, with the ability to get things done, with the ability to make advancements with clean energy, with the ability to push the ball forward in the United States in every conceivable way. And so let's continue to stand together and let's continue to fight against all that crap and, and fight for what's right. That's got to be our North Star.
It's precisely what we mean when we say we don't cheerlead politicians at this network. I'm not rooting for a specific politician because of their personality or their charisma or because they gave a great speech. I'm looking to champion the values that I think matter most to this community, starting with democracy and empathy and love and compassion and uplifting marginalized communities and helping build a better, more prosperous country that works for everybody, and to make sure that people get the health care that they need, and they should get health care as a human right, and to make sure people get the education they need, want, and desire as a human right, and to make sure people can afford housing, and make sure that people can afford things and live prosperous lives and have a good life with their family and with loved ones, and know that they're protected and secured, and that they can pass on a better world for future generations. I mean, that's what we talk about most here, and where politicians want to meet us in those values and principles, they can, but not rooting for this politician or that politician. It's why I frequently say, although it may sound counterintuitive to a network like ours, I say I really don't actually like politics, and I don't really like politicians. I like the values and principles set that we stand for, and we fight for the people, but we situate the MeidasTouch network, we situate this movement in the people. And the most important thing you can do in that scenario or in any scenario is listen to the people, be there for the people, fight for the people, fight for you, and use our platform to do that. And then to call out injustice wherever it is, here or abroad, this political party, that political party, doesn't matter. At the end, what matters are enduring values and principles. And oftentimes that may align more with one party than another in a given period of time. I'm not going to be ignorant or naive to that. But there's no specific aligned allegiance to this specific politician because they're so charismatic and funny. No, that's one of the things that got us into this mess in the first place, is being led down a road of demagoguery and cult of personalities. And we need to be mindful of that and root our power in the people, power to the people. And that's been the fuel for the MeidasTouch network. And that brings us to the last topic of the show, which is Donald Trump being handed a loss in the Epstein case that he filed against the Wall Street Journal. District Court Judge Gales, in a 17-page decision, dismissed Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, the CEO of the Wall Street Journal, Robert Thompson, and the reporters of that article for their reporting on a letter that he sent to Jeffrey Epstein's for Epstein's 50th birthday. Donald Trump claims that this letter, which was in the Epstein estate file, which we now all have seen publicly, thanks to the good work of Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, and specifically Ro Khanna, Congressmember Garcia, and others, who have really pushed to get those files released. It's in there. I mean, everybody else who sent letters say it's their letters, but Donald Trump claims that a time traveler went back in time and planted it there to frame him. And on that basis and others, Trump sued the Wall Street Journal because Trump says, "Ain't my letter. I never sent that, and you framed me." And the district court judge said that Donald Trump hasn't even been able to assert claims against the Wall Street Journal. The judge did give Donald Trump an opportunity to amend his lawsuit, to try one more time to bring it again, which is sadly normal in our judicial system. It's liberal leave to amend pleading standards, it's called, and that's usually given to any type of litigant, that if you get the case dismissed the first time, you usually have one more, sometimes two more shots in order to file it, which lots of people who look at our system go, that's kind of, odd. And Donald Trump takes advantage of that all the time. He drags these cases out. He will refile a new complaint against the Wall Street Journal. He'll ask for multiple extensions, and he'll try to drag this out another 6 months. I think in my opinion, it will definitely get dismissed again. And then, he'll try to not even talk about it and bury it in an avalanche of other headlines. But he got the headline he wanted, that he's suing them, and he can go out on the campaign trail and say, look, I'm suing Rupert Murdoch. I'm suing Wall Street Journal. So just if you're wondering how I would handle a lawsuit like that against Donald Trump, I don't even think I would file a motion to dismiss. I think I would just do what's called an answer to the complaint, get the case going, and then just do discovery right away. Notice Donald Trump's deposition, get him in a room. Donald Trump will be like, oh, I'm not going to sit for a deposition. You kidding me? There's nothing more I would love than do 7 hours of a deposition with Donald Trump on his connections to Epstein. The Wall Street Journal has that opportunity right now. And because of Murdoch's relationship with Trump, they're not really pushing the discovery. They both agreed to hands off. They'll just litigate it with motions to dismiss. But if you were really to litigate this case, like the war that it should be, you would notice Donald Trump's deposition right away. And I mean 7 hours they have full rights right now to have 7 hours with Donald Trump at least, because that's usually the limitation, although you can request leave for the judge to do more, and do 7 hours on Epstein. Imagine just asking him about that. So your contention is this is fake. This is not your handwriting. Get him under oath to just lie under oath. So I actually think it would be a gift if you were sued on that, but that's just me and the old litigator in me that would be my strategy for if you were wondering. But
once again, force his hand, right? I mean, it's what we've been saying the whole episode. Don't just force his hand, because he will back down. He always backs down.
There you have it. Well, that's all I got for this, which I think was a lot that we covered on this episode. We're going to be paying close attention to the Strait of Hormuz, the Red Sea as well, Persian Gulf, Red Sea, seeing what's going on there, seeing what's happening with this minesweeper operation. How's Iran going to react to that? Will we see escalation? We will keep you posted every step of the way there. We're closely monitoring the events in the Middle East and the rest of the world. And of course, we're monitoring events here at home as well. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. We appreciate you. Brett, you can anything you want to say before you go?
All Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty.
The Midas Mighty standing strong against the fascists. We sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.